Today. Thanks for joining us on TVC News at 10. The Minister of State for Petroleum Oil has assured that there will be sufficient supply of petrol by the end of the week. The Minister of State for Petroleum Oil, Heineken Lekwobere, disclosed this to State House correspondents after a closed-door meeting with Vice President Kashim Shettima. The Vice President also summoned the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, and the Chief Executive Officer of NNPC Limited, Melik Yari. President Bola Tinubu, through the Vice President, directed authorities in the petroleum sector to ramp up efforts at ensuring sufficient supply of PMS and price stability across the country. The minister insists President Tinubu is empathetic to the prevailing hardship in the country caused by scarcity of petrol and the hike in pump price.
Products are available in the country, and we believe that between now and the weekend there will be availability of products across the length and breadth of the country. The price could be high in some other areas, much more higher in some other locations, in some locations much more than other areas. But we believe that by the time there is availability of products across the country, the price itself will stabilize.
The regulator is ensured that there's increased operating hours from all loading depots. Vessels are being cleared promptly, and extended hours where safety can permit for truck outs as well. More importantly also is the reinforcement of the support being given to local refiners, because with increased production from them, indeed, like the minister has said, there will be higher supply, which will stabilize the price.
With the increase in pump price of petrol, residents of Ondo State say the development has resulted in the rising cost of food. Senior reporter Ayode Jumradio has details.
Prices in Nigeria have increased steadily since the beginning of the year. Ondo State, southwest Nigeria is not immune from these, as prices of food have continued to soar. With the recent increase in the pump price of petrol, food prices may also go higher, and residents of Akure, the state capital, have begun to lament. A general market survey shows that a Congo of rice is sold between 2,007 and 3,000 naira, depending on the quality. A Congo of beans is now sold between 3,003 and 5,500 naira, also depending on the type. Some residents of Akure are overwhelmed that the cost of putting food on the table is getting out of control.
So we're trying to survive. We're trying to survive. It's really difficult to survive. So I'm currently in the market, and I went to buy something. I went to buy tomatoes. It's really small compared to what I used to buy. The onions is compared to what I used to buy is really small.
For now, a bag of rice was 80,000 naira, but immediately the increment, it jumped up to 85,000, 90,000, which is Nigerian rice. But foreign rice now is 95,000 naira.
My 33,000 at that time could purchase what I needed. Then, coming to this year, now that 33,000 cannot even get you, let's say, a whole meal for up to a week. Cannot purchase a meal that will take you up to a week.
Despite some residents embracing farming, they are worried about the rising cost of fuel, which they say will have effects on food items and other things.
Yes, there will still be more, because as at last week, someone said he bought petrol at the rate of 990. Now it's 1,000 plus. So I think every day things is getting more expensive, because what you bought in market yesterday, you can't expect to see it at the same rate today.
As residents of Akure continue to contend with the rising cost of food items, they are not sure if the cost will obey the law of gravity anytime soon. Ayode Jumradio, TVC News.
Let's turn attention to China, where President Bola Tinubu has called on global leaders to embrace multilateralism and reject protectionism as essential steps towards achieving lasting peace, security, and stability. President Tinubu addressed a high-level meeting on peace and security at the 2024 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in his capacity as chairman of ECOWAS, Authority of Heads of State and Government. The president noted that the challenges facing today's world can only be addressed through partnerships founded on mutual respect, fairness, and inclusiveness. President Tinubu also restated Nigeria's commitment to promoting peace, good governance, and security across West Africa.
The president spoke like a true African leader. In every of his outings since he became president of Nigeria, and his also ascension as the chair of ECOWAS, he has consistently taken the message of Africa to the world. The FOCAC is not an exception. The president, although he's president of Nigeria, spoke for the entire Africa. He talked about the kind of vision that the foundation of the relationship between China and Africa has been to not just Nigeria, but to the whole of Africa. He talked about security, he talked about economic prosperity, he talked about investment, and all the areas that China and Africa have been sharing together for both of them to grow, not just as brothers, but also as members of this common humanity that we all talk about.
Still in Beijing, China, at the opening of the 2024 summit on FOCAC, President Bola Tinubu highlighted the significance of deepening economic cooperation and developing a comprehensive strategic partnership with China. TVC News State House correspondent Femi Akonde reports.
At this summit, China seeks to entice African leaders with more investment opportunities in exchange for better access to raw materials that Africa has in abundance. Here in Beijing, leaders of African countries meet and discuss policies and areas of mutual cooperation with officials from China, Africa's biggest lender and investor. President Bola Tinubu, as leader of the biggest economy in Africa, has his eyes set on increasing foreign direct investments and also strengthening existing bilateral ties with China.
What began as a China support for African nations' independence has evolved into a rich, multifaceted partnership spanning trade, investment, and diplomacy. Over years of our ties, we have been solidified.
Nigeria, under President Tinubu's leadership, already has an advantage with the elevation of ties with the People's Republic of China to a strategic, comprehensive partnership. The Nigerian leader commended the role of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in advancing partnership for mutual development and prosperity.
We have been solidified. We share through high-level engagement, strategic agreement, and a shared vision of growth. China has consistently demonstrated its commitment to Africa, not only through financial and developmental support, but also through cultural exchanges that bring our people closer and closer together.
The bilateral relations between Nigeria and China were formally established in 1971, a decade after Nigeria gained its independence. Relations between the two countries have expanded to include bilateral trade and strategic cooperation, but the relationship has been lopsided, favoring China. This is what President Tinubu's new partnership with China seeks to balance. Femi Akonde, TVC News.
Still ahead on TVC News at 10. Nigeria Customs declares state of emergency in the Onne port in Rivers State over repeated cases of smuggling. That's after this break.